Welcome to the latest of our Neos Educators Science and Education Talks. I'm Turl. I'm standing in at the very last moment for Neosmotic, who has had some technical difficulties, we believe. So I won't be saying too much, having not prepared much, although I have fortunately visited the worlds of both of today's creators and been stunned by them both. So when I praise them, I'm not kidding. I really loved what they did. And so without further ado, I'm just going to let us get started with the real content. First, we have Turk, who created the world. Oh, help me again. Blanking.
That's okay. It's a bit of a long name. It's called the Speechless Isles.
The Speechless Isles. Okay. Turk, take it away. Tell us about the Speechless Isles.
All right. Well, Speechless Isles was a MMC submission that me, Jink, and Toxic Poison have decided to collaborate and work together on, and it was a really fun time. That month specifically was really, I would say, turbulent for a lot of us within the community. So it was a really fun, escape, at least, with everything that was going on. Let me give you guys at least a nice little preview here. Hopefully it's nice and centered up with the camera. But that's kind of like a good initial image of what the map is kind of like when you go into it. So the Speechless Isles is basically a map where you go into experience communication without communicating, really. Like, you can only use body, you can only use facial gestures, hand movements, or even just drawing in the air. It was kind of like an idea that we kind of came together where we wanted something that had a good space or sci-fi kind of vibe, but then also having a cool enough premise that we could just be very freeform with it and make something really fun and kind of cool to play with. Because that's the point of this type of competition and this type of experiences. You just want to make something cool and have fun. So when we started initially, we really didn't have anything at the get-go. I think we didn't have anything made until maybe I want to say a month in, or maybe 2 weeks in, due to just us doing a lot of early pre-production to kind of figure out where do we want the art to go, and just kind of letting everyone kind of explore their roles and see where they feel comfortable with, and kind of figure out where everyone kind of goes. Here's some early concept art we actually did as we were trying to design figure out what exactly we were trying to figure out, because the ideas that we had were, we wanted something that was fun, something that was interesting and different and void, and kind of an aesthetic that I think and mind you, I had only slight input as to what actually happened with the art design and everything. How it went and how it looked, that was all Jink and all Toxic. For me, all I largely did was a lot of the production and background stuff, some logics, and just making sure they managing the project and stuff for the most part. So this is largely just straight up from their own imaginations and what kind of concepts they felt they wanted to explore and do. Over time it evolved where we started with we wanted to do some sort of interdimensional or void. It evolved where atmosphere started to become more of a thing. Was it in space? Was it not? Was it another dimension? We just kind of played with the idea to see what seemed the most cool to us and the most interesting. As it evolved, we kind of tried to slowly build out the lore of the area, because we didn't really okay, so how do people live? How do people breathe? What is the energy? Where's the sun? Stuff like that. So we have various plants and vines and such that we're kind of where you're in a place where there's not a lot going on. People just can't talk. And the science behind not being able to talk is you can't, there's no air in the world. So often that what you find is how do I send voices when there's not? So it's you kind of just have a airless vacuum type experience, which is kind of hard to describe if you think about it, but your brain kind of goes places and you kind of think certain things. It even got to the point where we while we were playing with the concept, we're what kind of animals would live in this area, what kind of little things would you see scampering around? Would there even be animals, or would there even be creatures of any kind? We would play with this in the sense of crystal creatures and mushroom slash very I want to say abstract creatures in terms of like we don't know how they came to be, but visually we wanted them to be simple and kind of like eye-catching enough for people to kind of like catch on and see what's up. Originally, actually, with this during the project, we wanted them to do more, but that was also the other part of this project that was a really interesting experience. Was we found out that sometimes you can set as many goals and as many things you want to do, but you only have so much time, and there's only so much you can do. So we tried to focus properly on the premise as much as we could, and I want to say like give it maybe like 3 weeks into the project, we cut back like almost all the planning that we had, worked with what we had, and try to finish whatever premise that we were trying to at least accomplish with what we had. And bit by bit, it became a more interesting as it developed, because we started with like nothing, but we filled it bit by bit and brought it up as much as we could. So originally when we were planning this, we wanted it to be something of where we wanted to do an avatar, a tool, and a world all in one. Because we each wanted to do something of like a solo project, but then also do a combinatory effort for what it would be. For me, I wanted to do a tool, Jink wanted to do an avatar, and Toxic really wanted to do a world. So we were like, okay, let's combine them together and see what we can get. Here are actually some early design concepts from Jink of what some of the early avatar was supposed to be. We didn't get through all of the armors, I think, on this. Like, some of the heads are missing, if you can see. But I wanted to at least show off that, like, we did plan for more. We did want to do more. But alas, time is a fickle beast. So as time went on, we had to cut some bits. Like, I don't think the box head type spacesuit is around, though I really like this one because it's just like I have a box head for a spacesuit. It's kind of neat. It's weird, you know. Nobody really does it, but and as it evolved, we kind of like tried to give purpose to the actual avatar itself. Like, what is it doing in the world? Why do you want this avatar over the other? Like, what types of abilities will it have? And like, where we want to go with it. Because originally, the map only has about, I want to say like 2-ish, 3-ish islands if you count the starter area. We planned for like maybe like 5 or 6 actually. So we didn't really actually get to go through everything that we wanted to do. Here is some more visual aid of at least some early concepts and like as we were designing stuff out. Initially, actually, it wasn't more of an island that we had, but instead we wanted to do something more of where they were like upside down mushroom type islands, just to like really reinforce like this like inner like dimensional like void kind of thing for the most part. It was really cool. I think we did kind of do that as it kind of came on, but we definitely did like aim to achieve that feeling, and we definitely got it. I know there was a lot of like Zen inspiration from Half-Life as well too. So as time went on, we worked through the project. There was also the wonderful event that happened during MMC, such as the rise and fall of NCR, and the wonderful part of my play in it, where I felt really bad for Jink and Toxic during this, because I was stuck doing moderation duties during a lot of that too. So we lost at least like a good week and maybe like a week and a half of like where I just could not work or focus on the project. And a lot of my like me being like the person just making like things are going for the project or being the producer for things going on, after a while it did really kind of hurt, but eventually we did kind of come together and just get the project done. So that was at least the one silver lining of all this, is that like with every project you're definitely always going to expect something really shitty to happen. It doesn't matter what happens after, it matters that you at least come together and at least try to keep going and try to get something done. Because that's the most important part during all this, I would say. And as the project developed, we had bit by bits where we were trying to incorporate at least all the stuff that we wanted throughout the project. We actually, and here's the avatar portion at least a little bit more, of where Jink had a desire to have a just simple avatar creator for this. I can actually spawn it out here. 1 second. Here we go. It's really simple, but it does the job. You just click, you set up what colors you want, and you're able to just go into the experience pretty simply. Sure, you can make this a lot more dolled up and a lot more smoother, but with the time that we had, we just had to work with what we got. So, but you can select each different heads and different body types and for the most part, just give like a slight little bit of customization. I think the running joke we had was like, all right, guys, make sure you put self-insert your head in there in some way, just for funsies. So like, hey, look, that's me. Because we got like a little me, we got a little Jink here, and we got a little Toxic up here with the Sputnik head. Oh no, I can't click it. There's somebody in the way. I can't click it. Excuse me. So, you're in the way. Thank you. Yeah. But yeah. So, as this kind of went on, bit by bit, we were like trying to slowly thread the needle with what we had. It got interesting to the point of some aspects, because like there were parts that are like, I know I wanted to add, but I was like, no, I can't. We have to focus on actually completing the project and having a centered, like wholesome kind of like filled out like project that's not just like kind of missing in certain parts. We focused on just like having a solid experience versus getting all that like fun ideas that we wanted to do. So originally the suit itself had a bunch of abilities we want to do, like jetpacking or like throwing certain objects or just certain interactive things we wanted to actually like do within the map that reinforce the communication aspect of you just can't talk in the suit. You can't like actually say anything to people. You can only like gesture, scream, jump, whatever, you know. So we wanted to like make plenty of ways for people to interact. So we did get a good chunk of that in, but not everything that we kind of wanted to. There was stuff like flashlights and lasers and other bits and bobs. But the two things that we actually managed to get in that were, I feel, pretty essential, and that's what we kind of focus on, was there is basically a locator beacon that you get. So when you click on the button, you can basically just aim this like little target, click, and it activates a little sound effect that makes you pay attention and see where you're going. It's really good. It works really well. I was actually surprised how well it worked. But it worked. It just like you could tell people to go certain ways. Most people probably didn't even realize that was a thing, because I know I was listening to at least some people's like going through of the experience, but it was still kind of somewhat short for some. So like they kind of got to the end before they really like didn't have situations where they felt, oh hey, look at that. So we didn't really get to put in like the gamification aspects or some of the more like we wanted to get like, we definitely want to add some like gameplay elements into the map to kind of like make it a bit fun to explore. The other aspect I meant to do for the suit was we actually added drawing. So like everyone's used to their very fun pen in Neos. It's a fun time to draw stuff, so it works. But we wanted to make it where like basically for the most part people could draw whatever they want with like at least a decent palette of things. Oh no, poke it. Oh, there you go. So you may not see it, but there's like a little hand palette in my hand. I'm not sure if it's rendering. It's been a bit, but for the most part, we wanted to give people as many tools as they could to communicate, because one inspiration for this map was you actually meet users in VR called mutes. Many might not know this, many might not have experienced it, but typically mutes are people who don't communicate by talking. They literally communicate by like body language only. They don't talk at all. Head gestures, emotes, you know, the works. So it's a really different experience because the level of information you have to give out and take in are very different. Because it also slows the process of information too. For the most part, it will change up the pace, and like you will tend to think more about what you say or how you say it, off not, and it really does kind of change like the atmosphere of a situation. An early precursor to this actually was where I had a world where we just couldn't talk. Like nobody could talk. Everyone could use only like mute helpers and stuff, where I can go tippy tap. That was the only way you could actually talk to people. But what ended up happening was it started such a like slower pace to the thing, or sorry, to the entire map and just people being there, that once we actually came back from this, people were very reluctant to leave because there was an easier pace for people to do. Because sometimes when you're in VR, there's so much happening. You like, I want to grab this, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to go you go like monkey brain mode for the most part when you're in VR, because it's fun, it's chaotic, it's crazy, it's like addicting in a way. So that was one of the things we wanted to be able to at least experience and explore with doing this type of map, because it gives you that like suspension of information intake, because you have to deliver it in other ways. Oh, another thing also that I wanted to actually show was that the avatar itself has different phases that we could do. We wanted to get it a lot more convoluted in what we could do, but alas, time is a fickle beast. So we have different emotes that people could do. So it just adds more to the aspect of like, how do I talk to somebody without talking to them? You know, like there was even a point where I think we considered like being able to bump people's heads together and you could hear the vibration through somebody else's helmet, because alas, you can do that in space. So why can't you do it in VR? You know. But overall, it was a really fun experience. It was definitely something for my sanity during all of this too, due to just I guess, the situation that's kind of hit the community recently with NCR and just how the platform and its like direction and a lot of stuff have kind of been going on. So it was definitely a wonderful time. I wholeheartedly appreciate Jink and Toxic for their willingness to work with me and the experience of that I learned of working with them as well. It was hell of a fun time, and we made a very, very fun map that I think a lot of people enjoyed. It's always nice to kind of sometimes just take a minute, sit back, and just not talk, see what's going on, just stare and look at some things. I think for like a funny joke, one of the like evil overlords I think we had of the area, because, you know, alien area, we tried to have like different races and stuff, but we didn't get to really expand too much on the lore. I think one of them, it had like an Ethereum icon, just for like a little like, ooh, spooky crypto, ooh. It was a joke for the most part, but it was a nice, like, interesting, like, kind of. I wondered if any actually picked it up on it, but it's like the little things you add in, kind of, when you're making like a fun map, just to kind of like, you're having fun with an idea, and sometimes very much the process of which you go through something really does affect how you make something. You know, like the experiences that we go through are really like tantamount to like what we make. But for the most part, it was a lovely experience. I had a lot of time learning. Production and sometimes like team management was definitely a big like learning point for that too. Because it was a big showing of how to like work with people in a really tight way, where everyone has responsibilities and everyone's like expected to do what they need to do. So it was definitely a lot of communication and a lot of, I would say, what's the word? Making sure that everyone's having fun is good, because a lot of times when you're doing projects like this, they can get the idea and the fun runs with you, but the important part is that everyone a part of the project is having fun and everyone is learning and just having a good time. Because a lot of the times when you're making stuff, people don't share how they feel, or oh, there's a bird. Oh my. Oh, am I out of time? But then to close up to be a little bit quicker on it.
No, that's just like your 5-minute warning or so.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't want to like talk for like the entire time. I wanted to see if like people had some questions at least during it, but I think we're doing questions at the end, correct?
That's correct. At the end, we'll do that.
But for the most part, it was a interesting experience, because usually in a collaborative environment, you're never gonna know what's gonna happen. And really, it's more being prepared for the unknown than the known in a lot of these situations, and seeing just kind of where you can go and what fun you can do. But yeah. But this has been the Speech of Siles. If you all want to ever take a chance, take a look. It's a fun little time. I don't think I ever got a chance to explain this, but the way you can actually talk on the map, there is a magic talking stick that you see at the end of the Overlords here, in which they are in control of, mind you. But you have to steal back the power of talking, as it were. But it's a lovely map. If you all want to give it a chance, check it out. Try being able to just have a map where you can't talk with people. If you want to just chill on the map, you can. Like, I didn't make it too complex to actually get rid of the system that runs that, but I know I've seen people just kind of chilling on the map, and it's been a lot of fun. But yeah, for the most part, I think that's really about it. I'll save for questions later, but hopefully everyone's had a good time hearing me blab about a wonderful experience that I had in a very rough month.
Thank you, Turk. Excellent.
Yes, clap clap.
We will have Q&A at the end, but great job on the talk. And yeah, I'm sure I'll have questions and others will when we progress. Next up, we've got Gareth and his gas station world, which, and I should just say, the Speechless Isles was one of the first ones I went to that in the MMC that just kind of stunned me and made me realize this is going to be amazing. And Gas Station likewise really just blew me away with the ambience, the humor amid a dystopian setting. So take it away, Gareth.
Thank you. Lovely words. Thank you for having me. There we go. Awesome. So today I'm going to be talking about, what is it? Gas Station. One more second, pull everything up. That'll be good to go. Cool. All right, yeah, so this is a project I worked with alongside of, New Project Final. I'll have everybody's credits at the very end. That way, but I'll talk what they did, as I go naturally. Going into Gas Station, we were coming off of a bit of a hard, previous MMC experience. We'd worked on a game called Commit to the Bit a while back, which was a Mario Party game. We put a lot of effort into making sure, we made the best experience we could given a month in the prior MMC, but because we scope crept a bunch and weren't able to do a bunch of testing, we ended up not being able to make it in. So we'd have a month of really hard work, and then at the end we, didn't make the submission deadline, unfortunately. So going in, we wanted to make sure we avoided our prior mishap of scope creep. So that was in the back of our minds when we were doing this. We didn't want to have a repeat of the previous mistake. Here's a photo from our meeting. This is how we always showed off all of our projects. We get everybody together in a world. Usually the more cursed the setting, the better it ends up being. In this case, we were all the Blender default cube. And as opposed to a talking stick, we would emerge from the shadows to, speak our piece on what ideas we had. Our group motto is Commit to the Bit. Also happen to be the name of the game, because generally the way our workflow goes is we'll pick a very strong idea, and then we will take it as far as we possibly can to its utmost conclusion. Hence, committing to the piece of comedy. Here are just some various ideas we had. There were a ton of ideas. You had 15 or 20 ideas submitted, and then the one we ended up going with, Pilk. Vending machine, gas station. There were all those ideas, intricate, well-written, statements and philosophies. And the one we just ended up going with was, we were what if we did, a vending machine and we put it in a gas station? That was the one that won everybody's hearts. Briefly, I need to explain this so that, it makes a little bit of sense going in. What is Pilk? It's a beverage. It's a 50-50 combo of Pepsi and milk. We all enjoy the thought of it. There were a bunch of memes made a couple of months ago about it. And we're you know what if this is what we base ourselves on? What if we made a custom brand of, Pepsi milk soda based on the various memes? So this is going back to what I said a minute ago. We basically picked the idea. We all like the idea of hey, let's make a vending machine gas station world. It's not explore territory. So it'll be a thing that, would be very much uniquely ours. And we had a chance to take, soda to the logical extreme. Nobody's made extremely hyper realistic soda. Why not go for it? And then make a good environment to match. Have fun with the concept. Here are some more just various photos of the sort of ambiance here, trying to capture that feeling of going to a gas station at 3 o'clock in the morning. To get started on reference, actually, June went out on a couple-hour trek at 3 o'clock in the morning to grab local gas station photos. We wanted to make sure we sourced it, got a bunch of very unique references. So June actually went on a 10-mile journey and just collected various images of gas stations, which I'll show you now how they were used in reference. As you can see here, we have the gas station topper we used with our own branding on it on the right, and then the original one on the left. A little too big to spawn out. Another thing we focused on was really getting the corporate feeling aspect down. So this is a screenshot of the offices that I work at, and then to the right is the screenshot of the floor here. As you can see, there's some very, very clear similarities. Creating corporate things in VR stand out surprisingly harsh in an environment where everybody's very bright and multicolored. it sets a a much different tone. But we thought it really helped like pull it together was having like very like generic materials like those like cardboardy like ceiling tiles and like a linoleum floor, like grainy wallpaper. It really helps sell the gas station environment. Here we have once again some more reference photos of ice and then propane, and then our resultant brands Pice and Pilpane, which are curse spins on the idea. So it's important to get creative with reference. We did a lot of like exploration of different like workflows during this project, and to make a bunch of our stuff, we consulted a variety of like very like interesting like sources. To make the like the bracket shells found, specs actually like Googled like documentation on how to build those things from like a regular like IKEA manual. And from that, that was where we sourced a lot of our information. It's important to keep in mind though, that when you're doing this, you should put your own spin on it. So I did a similar thing where I found an Amazon listing, for a gumball machine. I ended up, adding a whole bunch to it. Actually, I will show you that briefly. So as you can see in the bottom, there's sort of like a large yellowy thing. I'm going to spawn that out here. It's a little big, so I'll need to shrink it down. Try to make it so it can be visible from the back. Let me make it a little bit smaller. So as you can see on this, there is actually a portal at the very bottom. And if I go ahead and use a coin at this gumball machine, hopefully. Oh, I see. Oh, well. The ball rolls down through the tube, goes into the portal, and then it'll actually shoot out the top. This is actually bred by a limitation. I couldn't think of like a good way to like integrate a coin slot, and bending down in VR, everybody knows, is like not a particularly fun thing to do. So I'm like, I have an opportunity to improve the gumball machine experience. I can do whatever I want to. Why not have some fun with it? Make it, shoot out of a portal in the top. So that's how this ended up coming to life. It started off with like a regular gumball machine reference, and then I had a little bit of fun with it. For communication, Trello and Discord were very important. We put a lot of our ideas on Trello, and then Discord was like, the main hangout space where we did various things. Software used for texturing, Painter, Designer, and Alchemist were all used for various materials and model types. Photoshop, GIMP, and actually Microsoft Paint were used to make some of the graphics lying around in our area. If you've been in the world, you know which ones are made in Microsoft Paint. For audio, we used Audition, and for modeling and animation, we used Blender and Houdini. And finally, communication was, as I said before, Trello and Discord, as well as a software called Obsidian. So developing a brand. We were like, okay, so now we want to do Pilk. We have a bunch of good reference photos, some base models, but now we have to, take this to the next level, sort of make something like a lot more interesting going on. And so we all sat to work. We looked at a couple like corporate brand documents. We talked among ourselves, a couple of other small things. We sort of developed this basic Pilko logo for, our fake corporation. And then a variety of Pilk flavors to go along with it, all of which have a variety of different effects. Ranging from like sound changes to like some of them turn into tools. Some of them, can result in your death if you drink them too early. Other things like that, just some fun gags for everybody to enjoy. So this map started out really, really, we wanted to capture the initial like feeling first. So this map started, as just a light and on like a concrete plane at night with some like target ball recreations lying around. At this point, we were still concepting on general idea stuff, and we started working on an interior. Next slide actually shows off. I'm a slide back. My apologies. There's the Pilk flavors. Then the initial screenshot. And then here is us working on the interior. This took about a week to get the interior. We started about a week late due to having a bunch of different things going on in our lives at the time. We were a little bit too busy to and get it started initially. So we ended up only having about 3 weeks to put this all together. And the first week was mainly dedicated towards getting down the initial model and setting, since that was very key that we had that like ready to go before we started fleshing out everything about it. So now, we have we have a couple of things lying around. We've got a basic gas station. There's some basic material design down, some modeling, general blockouts. So now what? Now we got to focus on making a story, sort of selling this area as a cohesive piece. And that's when we started adding props. We had a ton of props, a lot of which had a lot of detail on them. There are different like gags written on all the different faces of the props. If you've been in the gas station, you know, you can pick up and read the nutrition facts off of anything. That's what we had a lot of fun doing, because a lot of games, they make props, they tend to be like throwaway. Like in a first-person shooter, you won't see like an accurate nutrition label because, you know, why have that? But in a VR experience, everybody can pick up and examine things closely and find it's a fun to, like really go all in on making those things feel like they're really there, like you're really interacting with that object. This is a slide by Specs, actually, about how to add in character. It's important that when you're sourcing from things to take inspiration from little things and big things as well. So as you can see, for making the Logic's disk format, a lot of different, like, motifs from Fruxius's avatar actually appeared in this, like the colors on his sleeves, like the little, like, slits he has in his ears. All of those became, like, key components in helping us, you know, design this prop and making it feel like it's a part of, like, the Neos world. Very much inspired by, like, elements we find here. After, you know, we developed a couple props, next came our main person, phone guy, who, if you look, the original concept was actually drawn in paint by me in a call. We were like, okay, so we have 2 weeks left at this point. We need an NPC, but we can't really make a fully rigged and animated character. There's not enough time. That's a hard asset to do. So we're like, what's our plan? And so we were like, what if we had a guy in the back room who communicates through a speaker? And then I'm like, what if we have, you know, he communicates through a phone? And they pass back a couple ideas, and we're like, that's still a little too hard to do. What if somebody wonders where the back room is? And I'm like, you know what? We made a couple of like fun like entities before. What if we make the guy actually a phone? So that's that initial like concept art is, or I say concept art, but it's definitely more of like a rough sketch, like on the back of a napkin kind of sketch, that shows, you know, what our initial like idea for phone guy was. Literally a guy who's a phone, all in the name. And then from there, Specs took the concept and elevated it a ton, and voice acting for it, and it all came together really nicely. What is it? So at this point, we've got most of our core elements done, and we're just working on polishing things. I'd like to do a small aside to talk about last minute ideas. You can get a lot of like, really good ideas as you're going in a project, but it's important not to let too many of them take over. That was one of our previous failures when we were working on the other game, Commit to the Bit, was we let too many ideas that came up last minute that were really good, like, take over, and we ended up doing them all the way through, and in doing so, we threw ourselves out of whack, and we ended up running out of time. So it's very important to make sure that, you know, sometimes you got to strike down an idea, but also there are occasions ones you just have to go with. And this is where we're getting to one of my favorite gags in the map. I will actually demonstrate this gag real fast. I made a volume adjusted one because it's a little bit loud in world. I'm going to go and spawn it out here in the center stage. So one of the last ideas we had was we had I'll go ahead and switch to the proper slide as well. Was we had a glass door that you could open when you went into the gas station. And one of our ideas was, okay, what if, since you have physics-based doors developed by Cyro, what if we like have that if you slam the door too hard, the door breaks? And we're like, that's a great idea, because, you know, everybody in VR, nobody really thinks about actions having consequences, since it ends up being like, a lot of the time these things are either added in or they don't matter. And it's like, what if like just this one action we had a consequence to for fun? So if you open this door too hard, as you can see, glass will actually shatter. The note will like sort of flick down, land on the ground. This note also, by the way, I'm particularly proud of this piece. Everybody reads that note, and then there is always somebody in like every gas station group who's like, oh, I'm gonna fight the power. I'm gonna slam this door anyways. That'll show them. And then every time it shatters, and it's my favorite thing, because like, they end up playing directly into like, the intent of that note is to draw attention to itself and tell people, hey, you know, reverse psychology works out for us in this case. And very much like a lot of people are like taken by that, end up doing it regardless of the note. And as a result, we'll see the gag. Everybody's ended up really, really liking this bit. Like, a lot of people have come and like, I could not believe you can shatter the doors. That's the first time to see something like that done in like, you know, a map like this. And so that was something that we were really happy we were able to get in. It was a very good last minute idea, worth pursuing. On the same idea, it's okay not to be perfect on these projects. A lot of people go for very high standards. We did it as well. We're very proud of how Gas Station came out, but sometimes you just have to like accept some things can't be done with like the limited amount of time you have, and just sort of go with it. Like, technically in our map, after the map ends, a lot of props will be left floating, but because it's in the darkness, it ends up not being visible. Nobody really ends up caring that much, and it would have taken us a couple hours to fix, and it didn't really do anything for the experience. So it would have left that like off the board of things you had to do since it wasn't really required, and not doing it, we saved time to make more things that people actually drove enjoyment from. So that was a lesson we learned during the course of this. And also, this is a slight mishap. Don't forget about player experience. A lot of our player experience stuff ended up being done very last minute, because when you're in your map, it's very tempting to just keep adding feature after feature after feature, a new prop, a new material, a new area, or whatever you end up doing, and it can be. And when you're the one developing, you're always thinking to yourself like, oh, I know how my map plays. It's very intuitive. We have like this soda, and you open it up and you drink it, and you listen to the dialogue from the phone guy. But like, in having this mentality, it can be very easy to forget about complex problems. So we ended up not doing very much testing, but the limited testing we did was very revealing. Big groups would oftentimes come in and not end up listening to the dialogue from the phone guy. And in doing so, they would just be sitting there like, what do I do? Where do I go from here? And they wouldn't know like how to use the coins, where the machine was, all the things would be left off the table. Same with this soda. We ended up making this soda like a bit too immersive compared to like how regular like VR items are handled. Like you have to literally pull back to pop the tab to open up the can of pilk, which is not something that's been done before. And so a lot of players were like, oh, well, I'm pressing every button on my controller and the soda won't open. So as a result, we ended up adding these last minute like integrations into it. There's like a quest log on the main desk, and there is a PowerPoint actually running the how to drink a soda tutorial. It was pretty funny of teaching people to drink soda. That's a fun thing to say conceptually, since it's such like an easy thing to remember in real life. But in VR, everything's sort of shaken up. But yeah, these don't fit in like necessarily the best compared to everything else in our map. The iPad really kind of stands out as being like just sort of there. Given more time, would have done a better way of like integrating these into the story. There are better ways to guide players. The result and similar outcomes. But once again, product of time. Still happy with how it turned out. Glad we ended up having that though, because if not, this map would have been like very confusing. Ending sequence. Love doing this. This was a ton of fun. For this, you wanted to go big or go home. We're in the desert. Aliens are the perfect perfect thing. It's a fun and unexpected way to end the map as well. Like you drink a can of soda, then the aliens destroy the entire map. It's pretty cool. I'm actually gonna spawn that animation out real fast. It may take a minute to come in. There we go. Okay. It may take a moment for it to load, and I'm just gonna sort of leave it here. Apologies for the lag. Yeah, that's a little big. Just sort of give it a moment. There we are, back. As you can see, I'm just going to sort of leave it here as I continue talking, and that is sort of the animation of all the different pieces sort of coming apart. This is made possible via the use of blend shape decomposition, which is a method for taking external animations and importing them into Neo. So unfortunately, couldn't do this procedurally since there are too many different elements moving around, and in doing so, it would have ended up being very laggy and impractical, especially on the modeling and then implementation side. So we ran a simulation externally in Houdini, and then imported it in using this method, which was developed by person I know. So let's talk about ways to improve, because there were definitely a lot of lessons we learned during the course of this presentation. Everybody's always learning lessons. Like today I learned to clear my clipboard. Post-mortem is a meeting type we always do after, we always do a post-mortem meeting after any project we end up doing, where we discuss successes and failures, ways to improve, ways that, we made mistakes, and we keep those in mind for the next project. And the most important thing, give everybody a chance to talk. This can be a little hard sometimes in the middle of a project for everybody to voice their opinions. People are too busy working to have an idea in the moment, or don't feel like speaking up because they're doing something. There are a lot of different things that happen while you're doing a project. So make sure during our post-mortem, we always give everybody an opportunity to talk, because in doing so, you get a lot of feedback from people who might not otherwise bring it to the table. But if you make a point of asking everybody individually, you end up learning a lot more about it. I'm just going to quickly flick through some post-mortem meetings. As you can see, we all had a lot of different opinions on various things that we could have done better, things that we did well, and different stuff like that. Another important takeaway, quality versus quantity. We had a lot of really detailed, dense, high quality assets, which is very good. And having those, that was like part of the selling point of our map. As you can pick up a box and read like all the information about it, reviews. It really felt like you were like holding a real product. So that's not something we would ever like go back and undo. But focusing the detail would have been better. There were a couple of things that should have had more detail and didn't. For example, the Pilk machine, which is, the central piece of our map, actually lacked, cohesive sound design, which definitely should have been a thing that we should have had, considering, it's such a centralized fixture. And the pill pane asset, as you can see, like, it came out okay, but like, it was very much like we had like 2 hours to do it kind of deal. There's like a faded logo and then like some basic material work, like nothing too like insane. But yeah, definitely like focus on where you're applying detail is an important thing. Make sure you get your core things out of the way first. Also, not enough testing. I mentioned this a little bit earlier with player experience. A lot of that was added last minute. And even with the limited testing we had, there was still a lot of things we didn't learn. For example, you could soft lock the game. If you just took all the coins to the material wall machine and used that like 30 times, then like you just ran out of coins and you were kind of out of luck. You had to restart the map. That only happened to like one person that really, really loved the material ball machine. It's still an unfortunate bug that we could have prevented had we, done it more testing and known about it. Lack of player feedback leads to a lot of small bugs happening. Another one is like Pilk labeling. A lot of people didn't realize the different Pilk flavors didn't intrinsically, like multi-Pilk. You drink it, depending on the number of sips, turns into a tooltip and you crush it to activate it. Not a lot of people realized that was how that one worked. So we could have added better labeling and more like cohesive description of each of the different flavors. Player experience and testing were two of like the big things that we like could have served to improve on. And then up here, I just have the whole team on display. I actually just took the texture from the the employee of the month board to avoid making it their graphic. But it definitely does the job. You just gotta ignore the months. So Nicole, handled modeling on this project. June did world organization, voice acting for Phone Guy, modeling as well. I did materials, modeling, and world organization. Halo did logics. Angie did sound design and UI design, as well as a bunch of player experience stuff. And Specs handled materials, models, and world organization. Phone Guy didn't do much. He just kind of sat around and talked to us the entire time, kept us sane, grounded. Cyro did logics. He built the door system actually that allows for us to do fun things like shatter doors. And Nez did materials and models, as well as some sound design for this map. And yeah, that's more or less it.
But come on up, guys. Actually, Gareth, I had a question for you since you're already up here.
Yeah.
So it sounds like when you guys do a project, like you really planned it out this time. It was really neat to see how that PowerPoint really, it was like a bullet point thing on like how to do a project like this, which I think is really, really helpful, especially since this is running on a stream for education about that kind of thing. Do you or your team ever like go back to the projects and say, okay, well, there's certain things, certain ideas that we had that were really good ideas, and then come back and incorporate them in? Like, do you ever go back, or is it just move on to the next project?
Definitely do go back. It sort of depends. I know a lot of different like small pieces, like bits and pieces, were inspired in this project by Commit to the Bit. Like in Commit to the Bit, it features like a central entity, which is like another like sort of creature we made, and that was a reoccurring theme in this one. Like in this one, we have Phone Guy, in Commit to the Bit we have Name Og. So we took a lot of ideas and like techniques we developed in Commit to the Bit and applied them a lot more in this one. And we do tend to update our maps eventually. Like that other game I mentioned, Commit to the Bit, it's not out. It will be eventually. We're gonna go back and fix it at some point and like fully re-release it. But so yeah, we tend to go back. We tend to take inspiration from the past and sort of keep building on like a larger like universe of creations, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And on the same token, Turk, it sounded like your project originally had some plans for gamification and stuff like that, stuff that you wanted to add. Are you guys going back to the map and updating it anyway, or is it moving on to the next thing at this point?
I think ultimately it depends on what everyone feels is best for the project. Apologies. I think ultimately it depends on what everyone feels is best for the project. If there is like a good enough like motivation from everyone to like go back and work on the idea, sure. but a lot of us kind of went into knowing it was not going to be something we'd probably be going back to too much. If we can, we will for the most part. But you also got to think the product changed over time too. So a lot of the ideas that we had aren't really what we decided to pick, and we decided those then and that in those situations. If it was more long form, sure, but with the time frame that we had and with the expectations that we had on ourselves within it, no, I think we wouldn't probably go back and add stuff. It's stuff we can save for future projects and like if we can.
Yeah, so you learn for the next year and take it from there. One other question that I had, Turk, while I don't know, Cyril, if you want to come back up at some point and regain your hosting duties, that would be cool. But one other question that I had, Turk, was during when people come into your map, you said you expected them, you expected certain behavior from people who are mutes. Was there anything else that happened when people came through that was unexpected that you didn't really foresee as far as human behavior when they interacted with your map?
I want to say I expected people kind of like finding their ways to get out of the map, like unintentionally. Like you can't force people into a map, but you do as best as you can, or you try to enforce that as much as you can in a nice, like, holistic, atmospheric way. I think the most unexpected thing I saw was that someone collected all the creatures on the islands. And the thing is, I don't know if you guys ever managed to see, but you can click on them and they make like a noise that's basically me sped up, making weird noises. But they would just collect them all. And I'm like, why? And then they like, ugh. But
like Pokemon or something. It's cool.
kind of, yeah. Cool. I think the other weird thing I saw was I want to say everyone went to places like people would actually pass stuff a lot, even though we kind of focused on making things have good enough point of interest. Like people would just be like, "Oh, what's that?" and like ignore like half the map. Like you can go up the hills, but a lot of people actually didn't, which is kind of surprising. It was like the path of least resistance off not.
Thanks. Cyril, do you want to come up and take over again, or?
You can bring it home, subjectivity.
Oh gosh. Well, okay. Who has questions out there? I'm also keeping an eye on the Twitch. So if anyone on the Twitch stream has some questions, I can read them off. But in the meantime, do either of you have questions or comments about the projects? Yeah. Go ahead.
I have a question.
Oh,
sorry.
Oh, well, no, go ahead.
No, you go ahead first. No, you raised your hand.
I have failed at my moderator duty. Okay. Go ahead.
Well, Gareth, actually, your rezzing of that world-ending scenario actually explains what I think happened to me when I drank the Pepsi.
Yes.
I got blown out. I died. I wasn't quite clear on what that all meant, but
Yeah.
So now it's a little bit better explained. And Turk, I'm curious, what led you to go for the lo-fi communication? Like, was there anything in your life experience or history that made you aware of, sensitive to limited communication and different communication?
It wasn't more so focused on communication per se that kind of inspired me to do stuff like that. Because the thing is, like, I brought up the idea, but that doesn't mean we were going to just run with it. But both Jink and Toxic were on board with it. So it's like, all right, let's see what we can do with it. Because the thing that we wanted to focus on for the project as much as we could is make sure the idea is interesting. Make sure it's fun. We're in VR. We're in a time where we can try new things and do new things and see how they work. And it was one of those, like, just like, wow, this is cool. We should do it. If anything can contribute it, I would say like I've always been like really fascinated by how people communicate sometimes. Like in VR, I think that's actually probably one of the more polarizing things is just how people communicate differently in VR than they do IRL. Like I think I've even caught myself sometimes like to a friend, I was about to head pat them and I'm like, wait, that's not normal in real life. So like it's a little different. So like the I would say like the social norms and expectations we face in here are different, and sometimes it's always good to like take a step back and see what we're actually doing. was like, we all have this like very fancy goggle strapped to our head to like say, hi, how you doing? But there's always like another level to it. And as time goes on, it's only going to get more wacky and crazy.
But also more enabling. You know, basically, we can do better than RL here. And I love that you were exploring tools and techniques for doing that.
For sure, for sure. Neat.
Do you have any questions?
I do. I have a question for Gareth. Being an avid pilk drinker and material ball enjoyer myself, I noticed that you had trouble presenting the material ball dispenser in today's presentation. I happen to have my own coin with me today, and I was wondering if I could come up there and obtain a material orb from the material orb machine.
You know, I think that could be arranged. Let me go ahead and spawn out the requisite prompt. Yeah, we can show off the machine in all of its glory. Thank you, Yuffie.
You guys rehearsed this, didn't you?
Oh, I'm so excited.
Here we are.
The wonderful pilk coin.
Tilt time.
There you go. Yeah, so as you can see, what is it? Falls in the portal down here, pops out over here. Yeah, you might want to aim at just the ball. And in doing so, this is usually much smaller, by the way. You can catch this very easily at head height, and it saves you, like, you know, having to, like, awkwardly bend over in VR and, like, fiddle with something, when it's much easier to just, you know, grab it in midair. And more fun. It becomes like a timing game at that point. But yeah, there's the, material ball machine in its full glory.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much, Gareth.
Very nice. Thank you. That's a great demonstration. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? I'm also looking on the Twitch, making sure that we're not ignoring them. So if anybody on Twitch, we'll just give it another minute, and then is there any final comments or anything that you guys would like to make, or any plans for things that you're working on right now?
Gareth?
Final comments. Oh man. Yeah, sorry, I'm on the spot here. Yeah, thanks everybody new project. I had a lot of fun working on this project. It's always important, like Turk said, to make sure you have fun working on these, and that's what described this. It was a joy to do this to everybody. Thank you to everybody in new project for the, you know, all the work you put in. Thank you all.
Awesome.
I think, yeah, no, I'll take a note from you as well in that regard. Like, thank you. Like, thank you, Jing. Thank you, Toxic. It was a wonderful time to work with you. I wish everyone could see the experience I felt during this month with you guys, because it was definitely a fun blast. If I have any final comments for this, it definitely makes me think more for the future with how projects can be, how collaborative works can be, and like how a lot of us will be working with each other in the future of just like trying to make cool stuff or do cool things. It's gonna be an interesting next couple of years.
I have one question from the Twitch stream, and it's kind of related for you, Turk. It says, it's from it's Engie. I hope I'm saying that correctly.
Hi, Angie. Don't be Angie.
How did you meet Jink and Toxic? How did your team form?
See, that's an interesting one. Because so Jink I actually knew from like way back, like early Neo days. I don't know if Jink actually remembered me, but I just really loved their Astroneer avatar at the time. So it was just like, oh hey, I remember you. You were really cool. And it was just like they just reached out to me and we were talking, because I think actually the previous MMC, we wanted to do something with avatars, and we just couldn't. Like, I got stuck doing the hotel at the time with everyone from Metaverse. So it was a little hard to balance them at the time, and there was other stuff going on for me as well. But so I was like, okay, let's do this time, because this one was more of this MMC. I would say for me is one where I just kind of relaxed and had fun. Previous two MMCs, I was working with people on a goal to like either try to win or to kind of just push the boundaries a bit and like make something like fantastical that's kind of really cool. But with this one, it was more of like, let's just have some fun, and it ended up being a really cool project. And that's how I met Jink. Toxic I actually met through Jink, because Jink and Toxic are brothers. So it was very interesting to, it was a little actually easier in some way to like, hey, can you tell them about this? Like, yeah, okay. So it was really nice. The team formed just more so for like I need to just wanting to do something cool and just have fun, really. Hopefully in the future, and I think that's like the best thing, honestly, because like teamwork is a bit of a tricky thing. So the fact that you have people like just organically coming together is probably the best and strongest thing you can focus on when you're trying to like make projects or build teams and stuff.
Nice. Yeah.
Actually, I have one more question for Gareth quickly. You said that some of the different, the whole project was kind of based around the Pilk machine. You kind of covered quickly about some of the different Pilks, like they do different things. Do you happen to have an example of like what some of the different Pilks do? Like I saw like Pilk bread and stuff like that. Do you happen to have any of those like on hand?
I will get not on hand, but I will give like a SparkNotes version of like what they actually. The PowerPoint should still be up, so I can just flick back to the slide actually quickly. Just give a brief explanation. So yeah, I will just do like a 1-sentence explanation. So the regular Pilk, just default Pilk. Filler door repair brand actually fixes the shattered door. Everybody loved just breaking that over and over again. So we're like, build that in as a feature. Make a Pilk you can drink to fix the door. There's grayscale, which just makes you grayscale when you drink it. Classic, just is like lower quality. It's like an older Pilk. Multi-Pilk is like that multi-tool one I was talking about where you can crush it to become different tools. Death Pilk, really self-explanatory. I don't need to talk about that one anymore. Dew flavored, another sound swap. It's a much like deeper swig. Quantum Pilk. Oh my gosh, this one's a little more than 1 sentence. I'll put it this way: if nobody's observing it, it exists in a superposition between everybody's hand at once. That's the most simple way I can explain that. I recommend trying it. And then Gambler's Pilk, you have 50-50 chance of either drinking it and being okay, or dying. So a little bit of a risk. If you drink all 5 sips, you're lucky that day. Otherwise, unlucky. It's a great luck test. And then Toast brand Pilk is based on a meme we made with a Crater Jam, Host Medra. You just shout his name when you drink it. And yeah, those are the main flavors that we have.
Hey, Neosmotic.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello,
Neosmotic's
welcome.
here. Start again.
All right, that's the rehearsal, guys. Who wants to go to the
Yeah, good rehearsal.
live win?
Let's give it a shot. Listen, I've already learned lessons from last attempt. I've got my clipboard cleared this time.
All right.
Neos, do you? Yeah, we're actually doing the stream right now. And so, did you see any of it? Do you have any questions or anything?
Am I late or am I?
Yes.
Yeah, a bit. Yeah, we're about wrapping up. Unless there's any more questions. There's no more questions on Twitch, so that's good. So unless there's anything else, I'd really like to thank you guys so much. That was really, really informative.
I was gonna say I actually had a question for Gareth,
Oh, awesome.
and
All right,
hopefully
let's hear it.
you have one for me afterwards. What was? Okay, well, no, I'll make this a bit of like a two-parter. So, what was the hardest thing for you personally during your project, and what was one thing you wish you could add but you couldn't due to time constraint?
Oh man, wish we could add. What is it? There were. That's more than one thing.
There's always that like one thing you're like, man, yeah, this what we had this, it would have been 100% more.
Okay, what is it? Definitely like wanted to have more like underground like exposition, like things you could find lying around that explained a little more of the setting besides like the initial bits you get. We wanted to connect a lot more of the different story elements and the brands together in a more cohesive way. I think that was something that personally I really wanted to get in, but unfortunately, like, last 24 hours, I'm like, I could do that, or I could make this playable for the end user, and I'm like, I've got to prioritize, what is it, the most important part of that.
Understandable. And like, what was the most hardest part for you personally during the project this month?
Ooh, man, definitely was pretty busy. I juggle a lot at once. I was working at the time. I was working. I am in school full time, and I was working 2 jobs while I was doing work on it. So I had it ended up being a lot of different trade offs, and I wasn't able to put in as much time as I would have liked to sometimes, and then other times I put in too much time. And definitely time management was for me, like personally, like one of the like things that was not always the easiest to do.
Understandable. Okay, cool. Because I know usually with like a lot of projects like these, it's the trials we face that kind of really affect how things kind of go on, and it's always just how we kind of like approach them that kind of really like, does it shine, does it kind of like, is it stinky, is it, that's like how we assess it ourselves.
Yeah, it makes or breaks it. What are you? I'm curious, what was your like particular biggest struggle? personally?
Honestly, like I would say attention span that month. Because like I don't know about the other projects, but I was in like a very weird position of where we had to deal with like the crypto clash and like
Yeah.
everything going to like kind of like junkyard bonkers bananas. So that was definitely like a bit of a tricky one for me because like there's like the stake of like Neos and then like I just want to have fun.
Yeah.
So it was a very like hard thing to kind of like split the responsibility between the two because it's like one thing is like yeah, and then one thing's like yeah. But
Ooh, yeah.
I think that was probably like the hardest thing. But the one thing I would say that if I didn't have to deal with any of that, I would say the hardest thing for me probably would have been I want to say some of like this, like the constraints of like being able to do certain projects in a certain amount of time. Like trying to make systems or like ideas or having stuff fleshed out. Because if you don't have the time to dedicate it, you can't like do the pre-production, the production, and then follow forth. So like it was really tricky in the sense of making sure everything flowed in a way that worked well, but that worked well for everyone as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, I definitely, what is it? The things happening as well. A lot of different members in our group had different levels of motivation because of that going on as well.
So that was a big thing because, like, I think for Jenga and Toxic, they had school as well, but they didn't have to deal with like all that stuff. And and actually, I think more of a personal thing. Both Elden Ring and Risk of Rain DLC dropped during MMC. And that was
horrible.
I'm sorry, that's like really selfish of me, but it's just like
Not naming names, we definitely lost number to Elden Ring as well. About halfway through it.
yeah. So like the release time of when you do something is really important too. So it's just like being prepared and making sure you have like your, I think like all your sticks in a row. There's a phrasing. I don't really know the euphemism. I apologize, but
I think ducks in a row is what you're looking for. But
there you go. Thank you.
Right idea.
I don't use it enough. So, but no, I would say that would have probably been the hardest thing. I kind of wish my teammates were here because like I can only speak for them in what I'm aware of, but like I would just want to like let them speak too. But it was I would say that would have been the trickiest part for me.
Well, it's pretty amazing the level of work this year for MMC. It was, especially since the month was so short, and I believe the previous MMC was a lot less than a year.
It
was like in October or something.
6 months turnaround.
Some of us were burnt from just like
It was definitely a burnout kind of situation for a lot of people, and I'm just like so incredibly amazed by the quality of work. MMC, of course, it just keeps elevating every year, and so we're so happy to do this series of talks for the Neos Edu channel, and I want to thank both of you for coming in and talking about your projects so much. It was really, really informative.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having us.
And I assume that there's some sort of applause button, but
it's one of those sound clips, I think.
I'll give this one a shot.
There we go. Got it in one.
Thank you guys so much.
No, thank you.
Anybody wants, by the way, feel free to take a pilk on the house.
Oh, okay. It's gonna be pilkless, I see.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
And Nicole Plus says,